everybody, it's Kelly again from Ann and Kelly's Philippine Adventure. We're going to come back at you today with some other stuff. First off, I'd like to apologize to the people out there. All the comments from my last video about me messing up on the monthly expense. Yes, I did. I tried to do it so that it was a common ground, like 50 pesos to a dollar, and I know that it was like 57 pesos to the dollar, and that was my mistake. So sorry about that. I will get that straightened out next month on our next recovery. Now, what I am going to do today is I want to talk about some things called the do's and don'ts in the Philippines. Now, these by no means are exactly correct. These are based on my personal dealings with the Philippines and the people. You know, I'm by far no expert on expat living here in the Philippines. But these are some of the things that I did deal with when I was, while being here. So first off, we'll just say my name is, for those who don't know me, I'm Kelly. I have been coming to the Philippines since 2015, and I do have a wife of 5 years and a 5-year-old son. We do own a home here, and we also own property up northern Cebu. Now, from the things I talk about, one of the very first things I want to say is one of the things is don't. This is the biggest don't ever. Biggest don't. Don't ever try to come to the Philippines from whatever country you come from. Don't come here hoping to change the way you live here or change the Philippines to come to be like your home country. It won't work out well for you. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now, don't do it. You come here, you change your way of living because things are a lot different here. Okay, that's number one. Okay, so a lot of things people ask me about in some emails I get is about healthcare. So let's talk about healthcare for a moment. All right, when you get here, it is a lot cheaper to go to the doctor, and it is a lot more expensive to go to the doctor. And what I mean by it like this, let's take for instance for me about a week and a half ago, I ended up having a severe sinus infection, coughing, fever, the whole 9 yards. So I've been going to see a doctor here, the same doctor I've gone to since 2015, because when I came here from the States, I couldn't adjust to it. I immediately got bad hay fever and I got a lot of issues. So anyway, went to the doctor. He looked me over, did everything he's supposed to. Now that visit with no health insurance here in the Philippines, that visit cost me 300 pesos. Now, if we go by the 50 pesos to the dollar, which is easy, I know it's higher, so please don't correct me. I understand it's 56, 57 pesos to the dollar, but let's just say 50 pesos for easy math because I'm not that good at math. So it cost me 300 pesos or about $6 to go to see a doctor. That's not including the medication. Now, what he did give me, because I had a stiff neck, I had pressure, yucky coughing up and stuff like that. So he gave me a muscle relaxer for my neck because for some reason I just can't sleep very well, and I had a very bad stiff neck. So he gave me a muscle relaxer for that. He gave me antibiotics for the chest cold or whatever it was I had. He gave me all the medications I needed. It was 4 different ones. Now those 4 different medications cost me 2,200 pesos, and I kind of round everything up so say it's easy. So about 1,000 pesos is $20. So about $50 maybe for medication, and that's without any insurance, none. It's a private doctor. I didn't go to the hospital, so that's a good thing. Now, a lot of people say, well, they have all these places on Facebook. You just, the expat insurance and stuff like that. I looked into a bunch of those, and here's the problem with the insurance you can get off of the Facebook, the expat people. Most of those insurance do not cover people when they hit 70. Now, I'm nowhere near 70, but another problem is those insurance usually won't cover local or like walk-in, walk-out doctor things. Mostly it's like major surgeries, and that's a good thing to have. I do have health care here in the Philippines through my wife because she has PhilHealth. That's what we used when our son was born. Now, it's only good for going to the hospital. You know, if you overnight stay in the hospital, surgeries and stuff like that. So we did do it that way. Um, I haven't had to use it because I haven't had anything major. Luckily, I'm pretty healthy um, for now. So don't just drop money on anyone you see on Facebook when it comes to health insurance. Make sure you do ask all the questions you can think of. You know, how much is the monthly? When is the cutoff or their age cutoff? Because a lot of them get you wound into a contract, and then even after 7 years of age, even though they won't cover you, you're still paying for it. So make sure you do your homework on your health care because that is a big one. But this last time when I went to the doctor, I ended up getting my medication, and within seven days, I was fine. So, um, goody goody for me. So, all right, what else do we have here? Driving. Oh my God, let's talk about driving. Ugh. Whew. So, the best way to explain driving in the Philippines is cover your eyes on rush hour in New York City. Cover your eyes and do 55 miles an hour. That's driving in the Philippines. It's crazy. It literally is crazy. And here's something you may or may not want to take to heart. When I first came here, I pulled out of a store and was turning right. And so when I turned right, as I was turning, a motorbike was hauling butt. I mean, just moving. I looked right, I looked left, I pulled out, and he came over the top of the hill, and he just laid it over and slid right into my van, and I was at fault. Now, this may sound cynical, and I'm sorry if it does. I'm going from my experiences. If you're in an accident in the Philippines and you are from another country, chances are it's going to be your fault. And that's just the way it is. Okay, my accident cost me uh, 300 pesos a day. This is about 3 years or 4 years ago. Yeah, about 4 years ago. It cost me 300 pesos a day salary that he lost because he was a hubble hubble driver. So I had to pay his salary while he was in a hospital. I had to pay his hospital bills daily. I had to pay for his food daily. I paid for his medication daily. And then we were going to have surgery on his leg, which they said I had to pay. So I think they were going to put a plate on his knee, I believe it was. And so we spent 5,000 or 10,000 pesos to get this steel plate ordered. We ordered it, then we had to pay for blood for the surgery. We got all this stuff paid in advance to pay for his surgery. And at the last moment, he said, I don't want to have surgery. Okay, so what do you want to do? He wanted to go home. Okay, but if you leave the hospital, I'm not going to continue to care for you on a daily basis or weekly basis or a monthly basis. This is, if you leave, you're leaving without the care that we're going to pay for. And so he didn't want to do that. He didn't want to do that. So I told him, it's not about the money. If you need the surgery, then we'll take care of it. He didn't want nothing to do with it. So he ended up leaving the hospital. He got well enough to walk and go back to work, I guess, and he left. And in return, what I did was I took 50,000 pesos and then I bought a wheelchair, walking sticks, and everything else that he may need once he gets home. Now, this wasn't asked of me. I tried to get him to get the surgery and do my part, whatever was required of me. But he didn't want any part of that. So he left. We gave him extra 50,000 pesos to help him, with bills until he gets better. And then I had him sign a document saying that that I'm released of responsibility because he's refusing the care that we were going to pay for. But here is the problem. When When there's an accident, most likely you're going to be responsible for it. Sorry about all the dinging. I'm getting messages here on my computer and I can't stop it. Sorry about that. Um, so, make a long story short, or already long story shorter, he did leave the house. He signed the release of me and the, being responsible for him after he left the hospital. He did go back to work. He's driving hubble hubble, and everything is fine. But during the signing of the contract releasing me from responsibility at this point, because he refuses to get the surgery, and I'm not gonna pay for his livelihood at home if he's not going to get the surgery that he needs to get fixed. I'm just not going to do that. He signed. He was willing. He was happy. Hey, I'll be fine. The 50,000 on top of everything I've already done. He's been in the hospital for like 3 or 4 weeks, 300 pesos a day for his work, and it doesn't seem like a lot of money. It doesn't. But realistically, I can't support him at home if he won't even get the surgery that the doctor says he needs to be completely healed. While he was signing the document, his nephew popped up and said, "Well, what's going to happen when he needs more money?" And I tried to be polite, and I said, "Well, then I don't know what to tell you. That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to get him the care that he needs, get him the surgery he needs, and then that way he can heal and go back to work. But if he refuses to get the work done, am I supposed to support him at home?" And his response was, "Well, yeah." So, you can't, in my mind, I'm screaming, well, that's not fair that I have to take care of someone at home for the rest of his life. But that's not the mindset with some people here. So, now, luckily, the gentleman who was injured told his nephew to stop talking and just to let him deal with the issue. And so we got it all worked out, and everything worked out fine. So he was able to stay at home and heal. As far as I know, he was working back a couple months later. He was working, and it all worked out well. But it cost me a lot of money, Filipino money, not dollars, but in Filipino money. And it was a hard time for me at the time because, well, my new wife was pregnant with our son. So we're spending, every day at the hospital, making sure he gets what he needs, taking him food, because they don't just bring him food like they do in the American hospital where they have food in the morning, breakfast tray and blah, blah, blah. You have to take them food. So we were driving all the way to Cebu City from where we lived, which was a good 45-minute drive, which was not a fun thing to do. So when driving, make sure you have 100 and 200% awareness of where you're at, what you're doing. I got cut off. One of these taxis come flying up behind me on my left to pass me, and he passed me. And just as he passed me, he clipped the front of my van within about 6 inches. And I slammed on my brake. And all what he was doing, he was passing me just to make a turn in front of me. He was right behind me. He could have just turned behind me, but that's not. He was too big of a hurry, so he wanted to get around me just to turn in front of me. And I almost hit a taxi. And if I would have hit him, it'd have been my fault. So you need to be careful about what you're doing here when you're driving. Don't think you're coming here and you're going to drive like you do in the States or whatever country you come from. It is a nightmare learning to drive here. It took me over a year to really slow down and really, bite your lip, because a lot of times you want to jump out of your car, you want to grab them by the hair of the head and just beat them to a pulp, but you can't. And here's here's something else you might want to know about driving. Road rage here will only get you blackmail or blacklisted. That's right. You can go out here. There's a new law that passed here that if you insult a Filipino, if you argue with a Filipino, anything, that Filipino can call immigration, give him your name if he has it, and they can file a suit, a paper against you, and you can be deported. No matter if you're married, no matter if you have a family here, it doesn't matter. You are not a resident here. You are not Filipino. They will kick you out of here. So you need to watch your temper when you drive here. And I know it sounds scary, but trust me, it is scary here when it comes to driving. So don't think you're going to drive like you do in the States or whatever country you come from. It is not good. Now, when it comes to driving, you drive a car, you drive whatever you want to buy. I have a friend here in the Philippines who is American. He bought a vehicle online without driving it. My suggestion is don't buy a car, a truck, a Suzuki. Don't buy anything until you drive it. Okay? There are so many scams out here that they can really mess you over, and you're screwed. We own two vehicles here. The first one was a blue Suzuki, and I bought it from a private dealer, not a dealer, but a private citizen. Immediately, there was issues. Immediately, I was pouring money into this thing for them to fix it at his personal garage or whatever. It was horrible. If you're going to buy a vehicle here, save yourself a lot of heartache and buy it from a dealership. Okay, a dealership is where you want to buy it. Our van we have now, we have no complaints. If something goes wrong, I take it right back to the dealership I bought it from. They have their own auto. Well, they fix the cars and stuff, and they only fix the cars that they sell. And usually my car, if something's wrong, it gets fixed the same day that I take it in. So remember that. Do buy from a respectable or a notable car lot, not what you see on Facebook or the wanted ads. You can buy a cheap vehicle, but more than likely it's going to be really, really bad. Now, also when it comes to cars, get insurance. You don't want to get pulled over here without insurance, and it's a big fine. It's a big fine. And when it comes to being pulled over, here's another thing. I got pulled over about 2 years ago. I made a U-turn, and when I made the U-turn, I didn't have a tail light. The guy pulled me over and wanted to write me a big ticket. It was going to cost me 5,000 pesos. He said, you can pay the ticket through me, and it's only 500 pesos. I'll let you figure that out right there for a moment. Let it sink in a little moment. Instead of making me go downtown to pay it, which would have been, I think, 5,000, he said. 2,000, 3,000. It was in 1,000. But if I paid the ticket on the spot, it was only going to be 500 pesos. So we paid the ticket on spot. But you can make that. You can come up with what you want on that issue. Make sure you follow the rules. Even though everyone around you see people cutting you off, the lines on the road in this country are nothing more than a suggestion for everyone else but you. If you're a foreigner, those lines are the law. And if a traffic officer sees you doing illegal lane changes, illegal turns, not using your signals, your seat belts, whatever, you will get pulled over unless you're a Filipino. And that sounds unfair and it sounds wrong, but there's a lot of corruption in some of the areas that you could live in. That's what I experience. Just don't do it. And I'm not saying all traffic officers are that way. It's a very few, but you don't want to have the luck of finding those guys. Driver's license. Okay. A lot of time driver's license folks here say, oh, you just got to take your driver's license down. They'll change it over for you at the LTO, the Land Transportation Office. It's not how it works. When you go down there to switch your license over, unless you have what they call a fixer, which fixers are illegal. Let me restate that. Fixers are illegal. Do not use them. If you get caught using a fixer, someone that you can get a license without doing the process, you can be blacklisted. Okay, so don't do it. Go through the proper channels. And what they told me when I landed here, when I wanted to get a Philippine driver's license, I took in my American license and I gave it to them. I had to be in country here for 6 months before they would transfer it over to a Philippine license. And at the 6 months, I took it in, and I took it in. They gave it to me. They took the photograph. I took the health test, eyes, ears, nose, all that good stuff. They check you right there. You pay the filing fee, and you get your license in a few weeks. It was that simple. Don't use fixers. Don't use fixers. Don't use fixers. You can go bye-bye out of the country, and that's not a good thing. Okay, so that should cover the car things and the health. What else do we have for do's and don'ts in the country? Oh, if you like to eat good food, good, wholesome, if you're American, you like, steak and, meat and potatoes and stuff like this. My advice for you is do not buy your meat from the grocery store. Most likely the meat is coming from Australia or something like that, and it's not, my opinion. That's all it is, my opinion. I've gotten bad meat, a lot of gristle in it, so I stay away from that. If I want meat and fresh vegetables, go to a wet market. It's all fresh. The meat is usually killed that morning, and it's fresh. And they have grinders in the meat market. They can grind your meat for you for like hamburger meat or whatever. So yeah, get your vegetables, get your meats, get all those fresh stuff from the wet market, from the farmers themselves. Much healthier, much cleaner, and fresher. Do go to the grocery store to get everything else, your canned goods, your deodorants, all that stuff. You can get your dry goods. That's fine. Get the grocery store. Again, these are my opinions of what I have dealt with, and I've gotten a lot better food quality from buying fresh at the wet market. And you guys, we got some videos here, so you can check them out where we've gone to the market here in Constellation. Great little store to go to. So check that out. Okay. Houses. If you are like me and you want to build a house here for your new family, or want to buy, just want to build your own home, you are not allowed to own a home here. You're not allowed to own land. You can own a condo. You can own the condo, but not the land it sits on. You can own a home, but not the land it sits on. Okay, so if you have like a 30-year mortgage or a 50-year lease, I guess you call it, at the end of that time, they can say leave, and then they get the house, even though you paid for it. Unless, like me, we own property up in northern Cebu, and we own the house that I'm sitting in right now, which is a 2-story. We just built this house this year, but my name is not on it. It's on the contract, but it's not on the ownership of the house. The house is in my wife's name and my son's name. So there's that. If you do build a house, make sure when you build a house that you get builders that are qualified. Okay? Don't let the guy down the street come up and say he's going to build your house, and they do it halfway do it, because a lot of people don't use like the rebar in the concrete walls, and you got unstable walls and so forth. So a little hint on building here in the Philippines: while you build anything here, you will also be paying not only the builders a daily wage, but you will also be expected to pay for their breaks, their lunches, and their break time, snacks and stuff like this. It's expected here. It's a nationwide thing. It's just something that the people do for the workers. Okay, I don't think it's a have to thing. I think it's more like it's a polite thing to do for the workers. I don't know. So anyway, there's that. It's not a big deal. I mean, a lot of you can show up and make some, grill some chicken or some pork and throw some Coke bottles at them, and they're all really happy and so forth. So yeah, you can do that. Don't get mixed up in bad people here. And what I mean by that is, if you like to go bar hopping, who you talk to now could be your worst enemy tomorrow. It's always best to to not associate with people that are very loud drinkers or that like to get into a lot of trouble, because what could happen is that if someone down the street sees you with those people may have done something that's very loud or obnoxious or might insulted or who knows what they could have done. But if someone files a claim against them, you could also be brought into it. So if you're coming here to have wild times and parties and everything else, do it at your own risk. I'm telling you, because it's not a place that you want to mess around with. And I'm sorry, a lot of this might sound like that's a down coming here. It's really not. I mean, the people here, you know, 95% of the people here are wonderful people. The most friendly people I've seen, and I've been all over this world, and they're beautiful, wonderful people. The government, you know, when I got here, they're very helpful for me. I had to get, you know, I just got my visa, my permanent resident visa through my wife because we're married. I was lucky to do that. They were very helpful for that. They were very helpful for getting my son's dual citizenship set up. He's got, you know, he's got two passports, and he also has two social security numbers. So he's good to go. All this stuff is that they do the best they can. But because of all the crap that's been going on in the world with the pandemic and the wars going on right now all over the world, things are a lot slower and they move a lot slower. So just be patient if you're going to deal with this stuff. It's not worth getting upset over. I used to be brown-headed. Now I'm white. I'm just kidding. Anyway, but it's definitely a place to be. It's a wonderful country to visit, a wonderful country to come live or visit, or, you know, whatever you want to do. Just make sure you're being very careful what you say, who you say it to, how you drive, and you will be just fine. Okay? That's pretty much it on the do's and don'ts. Now, if you have any questions about this video or any other questions you may have about do's and don'ts here in the Philippines, please let me know, because you know what? I'm not an expert on this. I do the best I can, and I guarantee one thing I will fix come the end of the month. When I do a next video for our monthly expenses, I will have the correct the correct exchange rate, because that was a big deal on my last video. So I apologize to the folks out there who had to do the math for me, because I didn't do the math. That was my mistake. So sorry about that. So I'm going to cut this off now, and I'm going to go get me something to eat because I'm hungry, and and I've been chatting around for quite a bit now. So I am Kelly from Kelly's Philippine Adventure, and I will see you next time on our next Philippine adventure. Bye-bye.